Dance all night and whirl your hair. Make the night cat stop and stare. Dance all night, go to work. Do the move with a quirky jerk. Shake it up. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason, Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground layer, where we have more protesters on a weekly basis than Elon Musk in front of the Department of Education.
Do we really?
I think we do. Yeah.
There's
a
we
few
could.
out
I
there.
don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, it's definitely possible.
Yes. We get under the Democrat skin here in Minnesota more than most.
Well, I get under everybody's skin.
Wow.
It's a bipartisan thing for me. I don't,
Yeah, those who are rhinos don't like us none either. But
Well, here's the thing. By the way, "Shake It Up," the song, I know it. I totally know it. I don't know who sings it, but I totally can sing it in my head.
yeah.
So I don't know who sings it. I can't even fathom a guess. Was it like an 80s song?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even fathom a guess. Duran.
No.
Okay. Genesis. I don't know. Didn't sound
Not
like Phil.
quite their type of
Yeah.
music there, but
The B-53s.
No.
All right. I don't know who did that.
The Cars.
Right. They're
Yeah.
not the trucks. They're the
Rick
cars.
Ocasek, yeah.
Okay.
But I figure a very good song to add to our Community Solutions music from the podcast playlist on Spotify, because we're going to be talking about how things are getting shaken up today.
Yeah.
So
Well, I got to say this.
Yeah.
News here in Minnesota is kind of slow. Mostly because I'm just hoping May comes and the legislature does nothing.
Things have slowed up a little bit from when the Democrats finally came back into
and that stinks. They
legislature.
could have stayed home the entire
Yeah,
time. I wouldn't
sure.
have bothered me at all. It's funny how the Dems too were saying they were holding meetings and stuff with. Well, you're not supposed to form.
Right.
You're not supposed to do that. Which, of course,
Right.
we all know it doesn't matter. But anyway, so your favorite Governor Goofball, Tampon Tim, not running for the Senate. What's up with
No.
that? He doesn't want to go into Washington, where he totally belongs with all the other transsexual supporters. I mean, other people who can't load a shotgun.
He was in the House for quite a few terms.
Well, that's true. That's true. He was
And
there
so
about 10 years.
He does have a taste for that. I think he does want to go back to Washington, but I think it's the White House he'd prefer, not the House of the People or the Senate.
That's a little Minnesota dream in there. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Minnesota dreaming.
That doesn't sound good.
No.
So that, there's a lot of the typical Walls answer if he's going to run for another term as governor. He gives the push button politician's answer. My guess is that he doesn't, but because if he's going to, there's no reason not to say so. I don't know what the point would be in waiting. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
You got to start fundraising. You got to start, caucuses would be what, January or February, which I know is like 10 months off, but in politics, there's so many things you have to lay down the groundwork for.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure he's got some of it, but obviously as an incumbent, you have an advantage, but I don't get what the advantage would be in stalling that. It's not going to be an event if he announces anything. He could come down an escalator like Trump and 5 people would be there and 4 of them would be members of the WCCO media. So, I mean, there's no incentive to do that. The only thing I can think of is that he's trying to figure out his next move and doesn't know what that is exactly. Right. And that's the thing I can think of. But the Senate seat opens up. What do you see on the Dems side there, Jay?
Well, we already know that
Mrs. Potato Head is already
astute Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan has thrown her hat in the ring right away, and she right now, I guess, is the heir apparent.
I think the field
on the
will
Dem
clear
side.
for her.
I don't know. I don't know if there is that much love for her. I don't know.
No, but a prominent Dem would have to go in there. I mean,
Yeah.
a one that has some cash pull and
Right.
some name ID would have to go in.
Can't
there.
be a Minneapolis City Council
right,
member.
and it has to be somebody with an issue. You know, because she checks all the boxes, so you can't.
Well, they've all got some issues.
Yeah,
So,
well, that's true, but I mean, it would have to be something of substance, which in the Democratic Party is hard to find.
right.
I argue over who's more trans than the other. I don't know, but so I mean, I still think she'll have a tough time. I think other people will get in against her.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna have to do it quickly.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's if they're waiting until the summer or something. I don't understand that. What's the
Right.
point? So, but on the Republican side, Jay, you can.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I mean, we know Royce White is running for that seat already.
See ya.
No.
Wouldn't want to be ya.
So
I mean, we could just give it to the Dems.
well, let's not do that, Then I don't know. I mean, there's things to think about, and we kind of talked off air about someone like Pete Stauber, who could probably win the seat or give a good fight for it.
I think
but,
Pete Stauber could do well.
But he'd be giving up his House seat, which he has forever.
Yeah. I think Michelle Fischbach fits the same category.
Yeah. I would really like to see, and maybe there's more the governor's race than a senator race, but I'd like to see somebody that's not known for being a politician, somebody that's got the pulse of the people get in, more of a populist candidate that aligns with what's going on in D.C. right now.
Right. I mean,
Trump.
I know exactly who I want to run. I just don't have a face and a name with it.
Right.
I mean, it is a more of a populist that is going to. I've said, if a Republican's going to win a statewide election in this state, and they can,
Yeah,
it's not
they
that
have.
they can't. It's they can, but you know what you have to do. This is what you have to do. This is what my advice would be. Anyone who wants to hire me, I'm very available. Of course, for the right price. You put the decimal point in the right place, I'll do anything. Is whatever the Republicans have done for the last 15 years or so, don't do. That would be my advice.
It's a good starting point.
Meaning, I'm not signing any pledges. You could take your pledge and shove it up your ass. That means nothing. It's never won an election. It's never done anything. I don't care about that crap. Whoever you've hired to run your campaign, don't hire them. And I hate saying that because some of these people are friends of mine.
Yeah.
I know some of these people personally, and I hate saying that because
Right.
But you have to. It's kind of like every year bringing like the same starting pitchers back on your baseball team. Well, if you didn't win with them the year before,
Right.
and you didn't win with them the year before that, or the year before that, at some point you got to get new pitchers, right? So
Yep.
what's the? I don't understand the thinking in. Well, let's hire the same people who were on this campaign and that campaign and that campaign, and all of them got beat.
Right.
And somebody obviously could do a job, but when it comes to the strategy or the thinking or the outside the box stuff,
Yeah.
I think Republicans have to do what they've done in Arizona and Pennsylvania and Florida.
Yep.
And that's register voters and get them to the focus on those kind of things,
Yeah.
which Republicans are actually doing a much better job of than they used to. This
Yes.
Democrat ground game is kind of I think across the country is kind of a myth. In Minnesota, maybe it's a little more real, but I don't think that it is nationwide. So I would just say, look, whatever you've done in the last don't do.
Right.
And then that would be my strategy. Whatever stance you've taken, take a different one. Because it's not working. So there has to be somebody willing to say, here's what the Republicans have done wrong. That was one of Donald Trump's things. Trump doesn't get enough credit for having his pulse on the Republican voter because the Republican voter was very frustrated for a long, long time about immigration, about the forever wars, about, there's every trade deal is winners and losers. And I think Republicans didn't pay attention sometimes to it was more about the businesses than the workers. And, I think that I think somebody has to come by and say, the Republicans have been wrong on this issue. Or I'm not going to obsess about being right about something. I'm not going to win the argument. I'm going to win the election. And so I don't know who's capable of that. I really don't. I mean, I don't know. Because I don't want to hear about your principles. No one cares about them. I don't want to say no one cares, but it's not a being right contest. There's no prize for having the right answer. And that attitude's got to change.
Well, look at what the issues have been across the country. It's been the same issues everywhere. It is inflation. It is the border. You can go down the list.
Crime.
Right. And if those aren't the issues that you're tackling, then nobody really cares. You cannot.
Some states have some of their own issues.
There's that. I mean, you have localized issues, obviously. I think in this state, this was a national issue too, is the whole woke agenda. You've got that here with the Human Rights Act that was passed and with the social studies standards that were passed and with the teacher licensing stipulations that were passed.
Well, the pendulum's swinging against
it. It is, and that's what people want. Yeah. And so, I look at it. We have won. We've done strategy and won races at the township supervisor level, for city council and school board, county commissioner level, and Minnesota House level. I mean, the legislature, we have candidates that are sitting in the legislature that have either moved up from being in a city race and they've used us as strategy or just direct, going into the legislature. So we know what we're talking about when we're discussing this stuff with you guys, because it's not getting into the weeds on taxes. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security.
Well,
no tax on Social Security would be a great thing in Minnesota because some people do pay tax on that.
Yeah, and I would even take it a step further than that. The focus on income taxes has always made me scratch my head.
Yeah.
Because if you take it again to the average Minnesotan,
yeah,
that's not the tax that is hitting them hard.
Right.
It's property taxes. We're constantly raising the sales tax in this state.
Yep.
Counties are constantly raising it. Gas taxes. When gas is expensive and then the tax isn't, going where it's supposed to go, there's some constitutional amendments that change that a little bit. But I think the reason the income tax sometimes doesn't resonate is you got a lot of people either not paying much in income taxes, or that's not the tax that's really hurting them.
Right.
The tax is like a property tax. I mean, I know people who've been in the same house for 15 years, their property taxes have doubled.
Oh, yeah.
And it's sort of like, okay, well, again, people say, well, that's your local government. Well, not necessarily.
Right.
There's money, your state's got money tied up in your school district, and
right.
Those policies affect those taxes. So it's a merry-go-round of money that we've often talked about. We've had no Republican attack the Met Council and run on unelected bureaucrats who run this state, the DNR. You could make a Doge case here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
you want to win in the outer suburbs? Stand up against the Blue Line extension and the line going through St. Louis Park and down into Eden Prairie.
Yeah, you've just been nothing but boondoggles.
Yeah,
total boondoggles. So
tell people you're no more light rail through your suburbs. See, that's going to generate support.
Well, I don't know. I just fear the same old Republican tactics, the same old Republican rhetoric, and that's just my ultimate fear.
But if you're interested in hiring a couple of really good-looking guys that have won a ton of races, hit us up at www.dems support.commsolutions.mn.com.
We're going to save that for the end.
That's that. You can email us through the website. We'd love to hear from you.
So now the governor's race, Jay, I'm going to move on to the Dem side. Let's make the assumption Walz doesn't run. The conventional wisdom says he's going to. I'm not so sure about that.
I think he will because he wants to run for the presidency. And I think being a governor...
You told enough jokes this show.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to. But if he doesn't, okay, and this... I think it just depends on what he's going to do as far as who runs for the Senate race as well. Keith Ellison, I think, thinks he's in the running.
I think he's been eyeing that governorship for years.
Yeah. So I think he's one. I think that
you mentioned
Melissa
Hortman,
Angie Craig. I think those are three.
I think there's I mentioned off the air to you, the wild card I see is Dean Phillips.
Yeah.
I don't know that he'll put his hat in the ring, but I think he's the wild card of all wild cards because, like I said, he could run on a platform saying I was right, and you people were wrong, and I don't know that for some reason nobody's embracing that. I don't know if they see Phillips as a traitor or something. It's just kind of strange to me because, quite frankly, I mean. He was like the only Democrat in the country saying that we had an incompetent boob in the White House and somebody needs to run again. Him and Bobby Kennedy, I guess, who was doing it at the time. But I mean, I think I don't think he wants it, but I think if he wanted to run, I think he would do all right in that.
He probably would.
Angie Craig's a possibility again. Crazy eyes, that's a little problem. But, again, giving up her seat, Melissa Hortman giving up her leadership position. I don't, that'd be a tough thing for them to do because they're just drunk with power. So it's I don't know. But like I say, I don't know what's going on with.
I'd also heard a rumor. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all right.
I'd also heard a rumor possibly look at Ilhan Omar running for governor.
Well, I wouldn't put it past.
Could she win here, though? She is radical enough.
I think she'd have a tough time getting through a primary. But my answer to that is, again, Democrats so lack substantive differences. If you took Angie Craig, Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, and all they were all running, what are the substantive differences?
None.
So what does it come down to then? Money? Box checking?
How many people you can turn out?
Yeah, I mean...
That's really what it comes down to.
I don't know. Omar might be something that the Dems just kind of quietly quash. I don't know, but Ken Martin's out of the state now. He's not paying attention. He's not on top of that as much.
So, and that's another advantage for
Martin
the Republicans.
would probably quash that, though. Because Martin would go, you stay where you are. We're not going to risk.
Yeah.
We're not going to risk that. But he's national now.
Right.
I don't know that he's...
I think that's a huge thing for the Republicans because you have you have a new chance.
Yeah, they haven't elected anybody. So
and so their first time out, they've got governorship on the line. They've got a Senate on the line. They've got control of the House and the Senate and the state on the line.
Let's understand Ken Martin as good a job as I think he's done for the Dems.
Yeah.
He survived some election losses. I mean, they lost the House and Senate a couple times. They lost the 8th. They lost the 7th. They lost the 1st.
Absolutely.
I mean, he survived his share of, not so great years.
And if he was the best they had.
Yeah. Well, to me, the best chair is kind of like the best umpire. I don't notice them.
Right.
So I don't know. But he's had that job for a long time. I bet 12, 14 years, I bet he's been the chair. Yeah. I mean, at least since, Dayton's re-election or right before that, I want to say.
But let's look at this. The Democrat Party thinks that Tim Walz did such a good job that the guy behind him, Ken Martin, must be a great guy to have as the chair of the Democrat Party.
Well, again, the real job of the chair to me is the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah.
And I think Ken Martin's pretty good at that. So whether I just don't understand, again, when you got 5 Dems running for chair and there's not a dime's bit of difference between any of them.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you win or lose.
Yep.
Even the Republican Party, they actually debate issues. And I don't know, they actually disagree. They think for themselves. And I don't know. It's like you can't compare the two. It's like a different planet.
Yep.
So, I don't know. But Jay, I'm gonna predict Walz doesn't run for re-election. I think maybe he wants to go make some money. Maybe he wants to write a book. Maybe he wants to. The more time that goes by, I think the less likely he's going to do it.
Huh.
So because if he wants to, then the field clears. I mean, then no serious contender goes after him. A fringe candidate might go after him a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe on the far left, although Walz is
about as far left as you can go.
I don't know. He doesn't have a right turn signal in his car. I don't know what you want, but and then maybe Flanagan gets more competition. Maybe it's a strategy. I get the feeling Walz and Flanagan aren't on the same page a lot, though. So
no, I don't think so.
So I don't know. I think we're doomed no matter what. Jay, we've touched on something a few times.
Yes.
And that is the realigning of politics here in the United States.
Yes.
We haven't really done a show on it until now because we're living through something you and I have never really lived through.
True.
The Reagan maybe was the last time politics kind of realigned.
Yeah.
Although Reagan was never able to carry the Congress with him.
Right.
The Democratic Party was very different then. There were Reagan Democrats, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It was,
It really, we had a lot of Republican leadership up until Carter. I mean, yeah, you didn't have all the different branches like Trump has now, but I mean, at the presidency, you had Nixon and the Ford, and then you had Carter.
You had Eisenhower before that.
Yeah.
True.
And then
But you look at this party realignment. I mean, as a country, we've gone through it. If you look at like how it would be defined by historians, the first one would be the Jefferson-Madison or Hamilton.
Yes.
Federalists and whatever you called the Jeffersonians. They went by a bunch of different names.
Yeah. Eventually, it was the Democratic Republican Party.
Then after President Jackson, when those parties broke down, Jackson and the Whig Party, the Henry Clays and the Daniel Websters, and then you went through the Republican Party after the Civil War. Then he went through to President McKinley, who everybody thinks kind of realigned with the gold standard, and Republicans really were the majority party until FDR. Then that set another one through the 60s. President Reagan kind of realigned things. And we're kind of living through another one of these where parties, I don't want to say reinvent themselves because some of it happens organically and some of it happens by design, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we're living through a reorganization that I can't figure out where we're going. Mm-hmm. I can't figure out how it shakes out. I think I know, but I could be totally wrong. Some of it obviously depends on Trump's second term.
Right.
And, what happens with, I'll just say it, what happens with JD and whether. Funny, Trump was asked the other day about Vance. He goes, it's too early to talk about that stuff. And he said it with a total smirk.
Yeah.
I know he wanted to say, of course he's the successor.
Of course.
What do you think?
Yeah.
But he just doesn't want to go there right now. I get it. But it was a rare time where I think Trump was like, too early to talk about that, but it isn't.
Right.
But my question to you is so we've seen this, and I've seen the Republican Party in my lifetime I've seen them go through several transitions, but not a realignment. you saw after Bush Sr. lost, the Republicans regroup and rebrand, and we had the 94 and that era. Then after Obama won, you saw sort of the splinter of the Tea Party, which kind of then MAGA sort of branched off later. You had the Ron Paul libertarian crowd, and it's all kind of splintered during Obama's term. Now, with the see, everybody talks about like the MAGA being in charge. The MAGA's running everything. MAGA's the Republican Party. I look at the roster in the House and Senate, and I'll tell you, I still see three factions.
Yeah.
They're all on the same page for the most part right now. I don't know that it stays that way. Maybe it does.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got, I would say in the House, you've got, you get the Freedom Caucus, which is about 25 or so. It's probably more like 50 if I were to label everybody. You got a lot of MAGA people now, especially the younger people in like their 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
And then you still have the old guard. In the Senate, you have the Freedom Caucus senators. We all know who they are.
Yeah.
Rand Paul,
Mike Lee,
John Kennedy, Ted Cruz. You've got some MAGA people, not as many as the House does.
Yeah.
But especially the newer senators are more MAGA. And then you've got the John Cornyn's and the Susan Collinses and the Lisa Merkels and the
Lisa Merkel.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. And I sit there and I say, okay, the Republican Party's changed. Or is it a Trump thing?
Yeah.
Is it because I say to myself, where do 10 years from now, where do the John Boltons and the Dick Cheneys and the Bill Cristols and the John Cornyn, I'm going to leave off Lindsey Graham because he's surprised me recently.
Yeah.
But where do people like that go? The Mitt Romneys, where are they in 10 years? Is this is it personal with Trump? Is it a permanent? Because it makes no sense for them to go to the Democratic Party. That makes no sense.
Right.
I mean, it makes no sense for John Bolton to become a Democrat. Okay? I know he is a neocon.
Yes.
But he isn't on 70 other issues. It doesn't make sense. So what happens to them? Do they come back to the fold? Would they endorse Vance? Would they?
No.
Or is it all January 6th? Is it all? I mean, what is it that? Where do they go in 10 or 15 years?
Ooh, that's a tough one. They're kind of in the political wilderness right now, and
Liz Cheney sort of admitted that last time I heard her. She goes, I really don't have a party, to be honest.
Right. Well, so what happens when you cut the throat of the party that you're in, and then,
there's that.
Where you're going to go. You don't believe in what they believe. I mean, as
well, she got beat. She got beat in a primary.
She did. I mean, other than what she did to President Trump, she was fairly conservative. Her voting record, I mean,
it was in the 85 to 90% range.
A little neoconish with the Ukraine stuff, but it was the January 6th stuff that really killed her, I think.
And that was her choice. She didn't have to take the mantle and do that.
No.
She did it knowing the consequences. It would probably cost her a seat. So it's hard to feel sorry for her for that reason.
Right. So I don't know. Because you know how hard it is to start a third party and get any success with it, especially at a federal level. At a local level, you have more.
Yeah,
pull,
and also there's plenty of Democrats in the wilderness, and especially Democratic voters. But I want to concentrate on Republicans for a minute. let's play this out. I mean, let's pretend, because if you look at the MAGA people, so many of the younger people are more MAGA, or they're more libertarian. They're one of that. They're not the old Republican guard from 25 years ago.
Oh, no.
You've got the Byron Danielses and Vivek, who's going to run for governor, and you've got, Ron DeSantis is younger than me still. Yeah. Obviously, you got JD waiting in the wings, and you've got, I mean, the Laura Brobarts and the Anna Lunas and the people like that.
And Tulsi. And
who's joined the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Now. She's only like 44 or so.
Yeah, something like that.
So, I mean, it seems like that's the direction it's going in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after Trump's done, do those people just kind of come back in the fold, say, okay, we cry uncle on trying to start wars somewhere. I mean, how do they play that? Because to me, I don't like to use the word establishment. To me, I either call them the old guard, or I call them sort of the what I call a traditional conservative.
Yeah.
A conservative who, all right, they want less taxes and they want all that, but they're not going to go over there and shake nothing up. They're not going to do that.
Right.
It's like when Pawlenty was governor here. He did a decent, competent job, but he didn't fundamentally change anything about the state.
No.
Okay, that's your traditional conservative. Yeah, he vetoed ridiculous spending, but any Republican would have.
Right.
It's kind of like that's kind of the crowd that Republican voters basically threw out of office. You really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the landscape over the next 2 or 3 election cycles, especially 26 and 28. I mean, it depends who's going to run again, who's not going to run again. Who does MAGA recruit? Is MAGA out there recruiting? Is Trump kind of delegating that down to the, to whatever? I mean, you look at a guy like John Cornyn up in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question he's going to face competition there.
Absolutely.
I think Ken Paxton's already thrown his hat in the ring.
You've got guys like Charlie Kirk that are working on finding challengers in these primaries.
You got Elon's PAC, who's going to probably back some people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how more MAGA does it become in the next 4 years? And what happened? See, because my hope is that everyone stays in the party. That's always my hope.
Yeah.
That it doesn't become a bloodbath. But, I go back to this. That when FDR got elected and started the New Deal, Al Smith was the candidate for the Democrats in 1928, left the party.
Huh.
Wendell Willkie left the party and ran against FDR as a Republican in 1940.
Huh.
Politics totally realigned. You go back up to the 60s. Ronald Reagan leaving the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
He voted for FDR 4 times.
Huh.
Left the party in the 60s, or whatever year it was, Goldwater.
Yeah.
64. So, I mean, this isn't unusual to see this. The question just becomes, how permanent is it?
Well, nothing's permanent.
Well, that's true. How long does it last, the Trump era? I mean, you want to call it the Trump real. I mean, look, FDR and LBJ's coalition stayed together for 40 years.
Yeah.
I
think this is that kind of shakeup.
Yeah, it could be.
I think what the left, they still haven't figured out how badly messed up they are.
We'll get to them in a sec. I got a lot of thoughts there.
But because of that, they're not going to be able to field the kind of candidates that the Republicans are. When you look at the stable that we just talked about, plus others that are doing a great job, and I think Trump is really setting the stage. This is how it's done. I think he is teaching all of this to JD. I think that a lot of this will be done, hopefully, when he is done in office. And, It's just going to be up to maintaining things and continuing to reduce the debt, reduce the spending.
Well, and I think what he's doing, what JD is doing, is kind of Reagan-esque. What Reagan did with George Bush Sr.
Yeah.
Putting him out there on the world stage. JD going out to Munich and telling off everybody in Europe was just great.
It was great.
JD's played an integral role in the Senate. I mean, from what I've heard, he's played a big role in these cabinet appointments and getting them through. And I think Trump's putting him in good spots where, especially if he's known worldwide, I think that's a huge plus for him. And so, you figure that. But I just wonder if, you talk about like third parties developing. Something has to happen, though, with these dribble parties, with the libertarians and with, Gary Johnson got like 4.5 million votes when he ran in 2016.
Right.
And the libertarian movement has just shriveled ever since. And I don't know what's happened. I don't care. But I shouldn't say I don't care because I'm for more choices on the ballot. I don't have an issue with that. But they don't seem to have. I think maybe it's the lack of focus on the smaller elections, And but you wonder where the green. To me, I don't see much difference between the Democrats and the Greens anymore.
No.
There used to be a pretty big difference, but I don't think there's that big of one anymore. I don't know where the politically homeless people go, because if you look at like somebody like Bobby Kennedy, not him, but somebody who is like him, and they're not going to get together with a Liz Cheney.
No.
So, but if you are a Dean Phillips type or whatever and a Liz Cheney and you're politically homeless, there is no party for you to really go to.
Right.
So it becomes kind of a ad hoc thing. I don't know what it becomes. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Maybe that shakes out over years. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. If you're the Democrats, how far left do you allow it to go before?
Okay, let's examine that for a
Okay.
second. I want to bring up these Rasmussen numbers. Because the disconnect between Democrats and Democratic voters is something that I just wonder if when Democratic voters are going to, they're the ones that are going to have to kind of bring it back to the middle a little bit.
Yeah.
Favoring deportation of illegal alien criminals. Where do you think that ranks as a percentage in the country, Jay?
All voters?
Okay, it's 87%, 87 to 9.
Yeah. Well, I was asking, that's all voters
All
across
voters,
the country,
across
no matter
the
a
country.
party?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have it broken.
Wasn't making a statement. I think it's all voters.
I only have one. I have 3 questions here by
Okay.
that. Only one breaks it down by party.
Okay.
This does not. Okay. Men playing women's sports.
I'd say 75%.
78 to 18. Some restrictions on abortion. Here's an interesting one.
I would say
some. It doesn't specify. Just some restrictions.
64%.
65. 60. This is where it broke it down by party.
Yeah.
41% of Democrats answered yes to that question. Now, that's Democratic voters, not Democratic politicians.
Right.
Now, you listen to Democratic politicians, you think that number was like negative 10. You wouldn't have any idea there's any opposition at all to that.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, put it to you like this. Again, we sit here 4 months after this election, and that party is still discombobulated.
Yeah.
Messengerless, messageless, leaderless. Are they all just obsessed with hating Trump right now that they can't focus on something? And when they do focus, what do?
Yes, and this is the brilliance of the Trump agenda. It's a blitzkrieg. You put so much stuff into play that they can't focus on any of it. And what they do pick to focus on, it's old news within a day or two because of everything else he's doing the next day.
There's some truth to that.
You know, he is purposely overwhelming them so that they have no way to fight back.
Okay, but let's separate that for a second.
Yeah.
Separate the fighting back against Trump and look at it going forward. Democrats still need a message.
Yeah.
They still need a messenger.
Yeah.
They still need some coherence as a party of what direction they're going to go. I mean, that has to happen no matter what Trump does.
Well, and that's the whole left's message right now. Trump is bad.
Okay, but that hasn't worked for 9 years.
Well, I guess they're kind of like the Republicans in that way.
I guess so. But, you know, it's funny. I just can't stop getting a kick out of Jim Carville.
Yeah.
But he was on some show he goes, you know what? The Democrats, they're so discombobulated. Here's what they ought to do. And I hate myself for agreeing with him.
Yeah.
Because I hate what he said. He goes, the Democrats should just sit back and hope Trump does something wrong. And when it happens, it's going to happen. When it's going to happen in 30 days, 60 days, whatever, they got to be prepared to run through an opening.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I thought, God, what an a-hole. I mean, he's basically saying, let's hope things fail so we can be there to
pick up the pieces.
I mean, like, I never cheer for my neighbor to lose their job.
Right.
So my side can win. But you know what I thought about it? Who's more likely to get run over by a bus, Jay? A person sitting on their couch watching TV, watching Keeping Up with the Crustaceans, eating chips or whatever, or a guy who's out running in the street and riding their bike and blah, blah, blah. Who's more likely to get hit by a bus?
Well, obviously person B.
Okay, and that's Trump.
Yeah.
Trump's out there playing stickball on 81. That's what he's doing. Okay? It's inevitable that something will happen. Nobody bats 1,000. It's inevitable that something bad will happen.
Yeah.
A mistake of some kind will be made.
Yeah.
Something you want to pass doesn't pass for whatever reason.
Right.
Carville's completely right. He's totally right. And I was like, God, what a dingbat. And then I thought, you know what? Considering the state of the Democrats, he's 100% right.
Yeah.
So the good thing about Trump is he doesn't care. He's not focused on that.
Right.
But this is where I get my twinkle toes Republicans all worried that the second, there's a little bit of a brick wall of some kind. But I go back to the Dems. How do you see everything in front of you being dismantled? DEI, old media. I mean, everything you've relied on. Newspapers are folding up. And, how can you take an anti-DEI stance? You almost can't as a party.
No.
I mean,
you've married yourself to it at this point.
Box checking is huge in the Democratic Party. They can't now pretend it's not. How do you steer a middle course?
But you have that.
Can they steer a middle course on it, though?
I don't think you can. I mean, when you've got guys like Pete Buttigieg, and I don't know if you heard this in the last week, where he came out and he's like the ultimate box checker, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if he wasn't gay, he wouldn't be never been the secretary. Nobody know anything about South Bend, Indiana, if Notre Dame wasn't there.
Right. But he came out in an interview and he was like, yeah, we have just gone way too far into this DI stuff, and we've got to start looking at policies and stop looking at what people are, but instead looking at who people are. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm like, no one has benefited from DEI policies
from lowering
more than
standards
you.
More than him.
Yeah.
Is he getting a government pension somewhere?
He's supposedly living in Michigan now, and maybe going to run for something out of Michigan,
God.
Senate seat, or I don't know.
Well, his
something.
what do you call it? His partner, I think, said something different. It was a classic case of he said.
Yeah.
But let me just say this. I mean, I don't know how you walk that back. I think the Democrats could if they played the cards right.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a way to support. I don't like calling it affirmative action. There is a way of supporting if they focus on opportunity rather than quotas or things like that. There is an opportunity there, and I think if they were smart, they'd be like, we don't want quotas. This was the Bill Clinton line. I don't want quotas. I don't want nothing like that. But I would like to give a hand up to minority kids in North Minneapolis. I don't want to recycle the same people and I think there's a way to maybe finagle that.
Right.
I don't know how you finagle men playing women's sports. I don't understand why Dems can't pivot on that issue, though.
I don't understand either. I mean, they are willing to die on that hill.
They're so afraid. What are they afraid of?
I don't know.
You know what I think it is? I think it's the donors, the Hollywood.
Yeah.
I think they're just afraid of. Democrats aren't used to being called stuff Republicans are.
Right. We've developed some pretty thick skin.
Yeah,
over,
I mean they don't want to
time.
be called those things. And
Yeah.
I think that's why. I think a lot of them don't agree with that. But they're afraid to speak out.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen like 4 people speak out. There's 1 or 2 people in the House, maybe Senator Fetterman, and that's about all. You see about 4 people say something.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, really? I mean, that's such an easy issue to take off the table.
Absolutely. You're talking about like 1 to 2% of the population.
Yeah, but it's a popular issue among the angriest, loudest part of the party.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't get it. I really just don't. I'll tell you. Let me say something else. I think I'm going to throw a curveball out there. Do you think Democrats are going to ever buck the teachers' unions?
No.
You really don't think anywhere it'll happen?
No. I don't. I think you have some Republicans that are cozy with them, especially in states like Texas.
That's a little less and less, but there's a little bit of that.
I think that
the unions there don't have the power that they do in other states, though.
Right.
I don't think it's quite like it is like in Minnesota, but yeah. You don't think they have any of them buck them anywhere? Just say, look, the performance is so bad that and Democrats are married to these public schools. And, I mean, you don't think that somebody somewhere is going to say, we can't do this anymore?
Yeah, I don't think they think that's a problem. They can always say it's for the kids. They always have their lines.
Is that working?
It's for the kid. Well, no.
Oh.
Sometimes it works. I mean, you put a referendum on the ballot, it works.
Yeah, a lot of times ballot opponents aren't very organized, but I mean, they plan those things for years. So there's some truth to that. But I mean, do you think that I just wonder, watching the performance of these schools, I think smart politics would be like, look, I respect teachers, I respect what they do, but I ain't taking marching orders from them anymore. And I think that would be such a good issue. It's such a great issue for Republicans that they don't take advantage of. Vivek's going to be an exception from what I see. But, you don't see anybody bucking it anywhere.
No, you really don't. You think that Vivek's going to win the governor of Ohio race?
I think he'll win it going away.
I do too.
I think he might win by 20.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny watching him give an interview the other day. It's like, there's a state where you see the passing of the torch. How old's Mike DeWine? Like 80? I mean, you're gonna see, they like to JD.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a state that's become very red, and I think Vivek's gonna make it redder. That's, if I had to guess, that'd be my guess.
Yeah, I would too.
So yeah, but boy, Dems, here's the other question: is everybody talks about Dems have to moderate or they have to change this?
Yeah.
Who are the moderate Democrats?
There are none left, as far as I know.
Very few.
Yeah.
I mean,
Joe Manchin's gone. Kristen Sinema's gone. Who you got?
Who do you have? You got Fetterman can think for himself.
Yeah.
And he's the only one that consistently voted for a lot of Trump's people. Too many of them are from safe blue states.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are in the House. There's 18 Democrats in the House that are in districts Trump won. There's 13 senators from states that Trump won. So Fetterman seems to be the only one who sort of gets it, even though I know he has his own views, but I mean, sort of gets that he'll be in trouble here.
Right.
But I don't know who's going to be the leader that, there was the old days of the Democratic Leadership Council that tried to get rid of Dukakis and get rid of Mondale.
Yeah.
And try to turn the page there. I don't sense that there's that realism there. I don't think that Democrats think they're out of step with the American people. I really don't think they think that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's anybody's guess, I guess. But you look at the Democrat Party now, and they have no intentions of coming to the right or the middle, even.
But don't they see that? Look what happened when Bill Clinton came to the middle.
Yeah.
Not only did it benefit the country, it benefited him. Isn't there anyone that can recognize that? Maybe there isn't. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't see anybody raising up. I mean, once in a while, like you say, Fetterman, but other than that, everybody seems to be in lockstep. They're protesting outside USAID. They're protesting outside the Department of Education. Why?
Is that a hill you're going to die on?
Screaming about
cuts die on that hill?
This and that. Yeah. Why not?
You know what I love? MSNBC goes out there and lays off, cancels Joy Reid's show, lays off a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Then they complain about government layoffs. Like, well, didn't you just lay off a bunch of people? Here's my other question. I'm going to throw some odds out at you because you look ahead to 2028. And I know I'm having fun with this, but let me ask you a question first. Again, we're going to make some assumptions here. Are we going to assume JD slides through? Is there substantial opposition to him from the old guard? Could they put up a person? Could they put up a fight? I don't know.
Yeah, there's not much old guard left.
I mean, the
you
Nikki
got more
Haley
of it in the
wing,
Republican.
Are they going to put up a person?
They probably will, and I don't know who that'll be. I mean, you've got a lot of guys that have cycled through that probably aren't going to try it again, like Mitt Romney.
Oh yeah, Romney's got to be 75 years old by now. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know who does. If we assume it's JD, you go to the Democrat side. We've had fun with this before.
Yeah.
What are the odds? What are the odds their candidate is AOC? What do you think about that? Do you think that I'm crazy to think she's a leading contender?
No, I don't think so.
I think she could win the nomination.
Yeah, that's possible.
I don't know how old she is. She's got to be 35. But
yeah. I mean, why not? Yeah. I don't think she could win, a general election.
Not right now, but I don't know what things will be like in 3.5 years, but no way can she today. But you look at all the names being pitched around. I mean, none of them have none of them are going in the right direction.
No.
So who the hell emerges? I mean, I know the Dems got bigger problems like what they're going to do right now.
Yeah.
But it's telling who comes out. And, Hakeem Jeffries doesn't seem to be a super strong leader. I can't believe they haven't replaced Chuck Schumer in the Senate.
Yeah, he's nuts.
But I mean,
I don't know, he's just bad. He's bad at his job.
How can he not be replaced?
Well, it is New York, and I'm sure that it has everything to do with money and influence. To be able to run in New York, you have to have proved yourself somewhere else.
Well, maybe, but he doesn't need to be the leader. I mean, how can you lose and then just reelect all the same people again?
Well, how many years was Mitch McConnell head of the Senate and the Republicans? Nancy Pelosi with the Democrats on the House.
God, when did Bill Frist retire? Oh.
Yeah.
I think that was in Bush's second term. I think McConnell's led him ever since.
Yeah.
So what is that? 16 years?
Something like that.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
It's hard when you hold all the money and
the committee assignments.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to go against the leader of the Senate in your party.
Yeah, I don't know. And if you're the Dems in the Senate, who do you replace them with? Who's got any kind of vision? Nobody. What do you think Amy Klobuchar's future is?
Hopefully retirement. It's an interesting question because I've noticed ever since the inauguration, she seems to be everywhere. Have you noticed that? Like
she was on The View the other day.
Yeah.
Not that I watched that.
Right. But she was on The View. She goes on all the cushy left-wing stuff, but
she
made sure that she was the head of the whatever that was in charge of the inauguration, and so she had a very prominent and visible role in all of that.
Even though she's like 5'3" between Vance and Trump, you couldn't see her, but yeah. Yeah, and Barron Trump, like 6'10", you couldn't see Klobuchar anywhere up there. But yeah, I don't know. You're right though. Where is she going?
I don't know. Where can you go? Governor? I suppose she could try for the governor's race.
She doesn't want that.
Earlier.
She could have run for governor any time in the last dozen years if she wanted to.
Suppose
she wanted to be the governor, she could be.
I suppose. I mean,
I don't think her popularity here is what it was.
Well,
I mean,
she hasn't found anybody to run against her that'll do anything.
Right, but I mean, even the last time, I mean, with everything going against Royce White, he still got 42% of the vote. That's more than most people have gotten against her, and he had no money. True. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if her star has waned a little bit here.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of read that because Klobuchar is very disciplined. She's totally not up. And the Democrats really need somebody who's not rehearsed, not reading from a teleprompter. That's not her. So I don't know where she could go or where she thinks she's going.
Yeah.
I always thought Veep was something that she was always eyeing.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I thought there was a good chance Biden would pick her in 2020.
Yeah.
In retrospect, she'd have probably been better than word salad.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously she would have been better for the Democrat Party. But, I don't know going forward. I know she ran for president. She might try that again, but.
Well, look, running for president and failing the first time is not a crime. I mean, a lot of people have done it. President Reagan did it.
Yeah.
Bush Sr. did it.
Michael Jordan. Sorry.
Michael Jordan.
He tried out for the basketball team and was cut.
Oh,
right?
did he?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I was being facetious.
You're going there. Okay.
Yeah, back when he was in high school. So yes, it was a joke.
Yeah.
Obviously didn't translate well.
I get it now.
Yeah, but yet, it has happened. I think it's rare. Obviously. Yeah, with Trump and Grover Cleveland, you have that gap in between. But to not even be able to get very far in the primary process, and come back, and Reagan, he was like first runner up.
Yeah, and so was Bush Senior. To Reagan. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that can happen. Biden, how many times did he run? Like 5?
Goodness, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just know that I look on the Republican side, Ron DeSantis will run again someday. Yep. I could see Tim Scott running again someday. Yep. Just because they ran against the former president, which is kind of not fair.
Right.
I mean, DeSantis was going for the Trump crowd, and he wasn't going to get it as long as Trump was in the race.
Right.
So I can't fault him for that.
Kind of ill-advised.
Yeah, well, I think his star was on a high. I think he had to try.
Yeah.
So, so I think Klobuchar could be eyeing that. I don't really know. And if the field is as wide open as it seems to be, with no front runner, I can't even fathom a front. When you run a poll and your fourth or fifth guy is Stephen A. Smith, I don't know, who doesn't even really identify as a Democrat. What does that say about where you're going? I mean, I follow him on Twitter, and Smith was reposting these polls, laughing about it.
Yeah,
what the hell is with them? He was making light of it. He goes, "How did I get on a poll?" Dude, he was like, I think he pulled higher than Walz on one. So I mean, you're obviously not going to go with Harris again. So,
although she's at the top of the polls, which means they have nobody.
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of say,
Yeah,
I don't know that means anything now, but I'm sure the person who just ran is top of mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know where they go. I will say this: they need a Sister Souljah moment, and I don't know who does it or on what issue it's done on, but it has to happen. And I wonder if liberals too recognize that. How much the media's changed. Don't you love what Trump's doing to the White House press corps?
Oh, yes.
Who was it? It might have been his press secretary. Said, we're being criticized for putting in this alternative media. These alternative medias get 3 times the viewers that we're putting in people that reach more people.
Yeah.
They're a little friendlier to the administration, but they're also... Why does the New York Times, what, do they get a seat at the table forever?
Right.
Just because they're the New York Times and 100 years ago they were the #1 paper in the country? Now nobody under 70 reads a newspaper, so they got to stay there forever?
Right. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that because I think legacy media is dead. I mean,
it's not going away, though.
No, they'll keep trying, I guess, until they go bankrupt. But
they're not smart enough to recognize that their business model and they're trying to get news for half the country isn't working anymore. They're not smart enough to see that. And you know what else needs to change? This is what really needs to happen on cable news. It even needs to happen on Fox. You got to change these shows up. Every show's the same. It's monologue for 10 minutes. You go on MSNBC, there's the same 4 guests every time. There's some Fox shows like that, too. And that's part of why it's dwindling, too. Is it's way too much of the same format, the same 3-minute interview. It just surprises me. What's the great about a podcast? what's great about a podcast is it's a different subject all the time. It's
different
a
guest every time.
Different length of show every time. It's totally ad hoc. It's not the rehearsed 5 questions that you get everywhere else.
Right.
I don't understand how they can't see their business. I don't think it's so much who's liberal and conservative, because there's liberal podcasts out there that are doing well too.
Yeah.
It is the same business. They got an 80s business model. And how much money do you think Turner Time Warner, how much money is CNN bleeding off of them right now? I mean, it's got to be horrible.
Oh, it is. I mean, look at what's happening on those channels. I mean, you have who just got let go on Joy Reid got let go on MSNBC, who's been there forever. She's terrible.
Yeah.
You know,
Rachel Maddow's leaving.
Yeah, and she's only there part of the time.
Yeah,
I mean,
for $25 million.
Yeah. Ugh. I had to bring Jon Stewart back to do the Daily Show.
Yeah. Well, CNN's gone through everybody.
And they've rehired him again. It's like fired everybody.
I don't even know
rehired
who's
him
on
again.
there. If it was since Larry King left, I haven't known who's. But CNN used to try to be fair. Tucker Carlson worked for them. Glenn Beck worked for them.
Yeah.
Bob Novak, Pat Buchanan. I mean, there used to be some semblance of, outside of that Jennings guy, there's nobody there. And I don't know who hosts their shows anymore. I wouldn't watch it if you hung me upside down. But I mean,
right.
I just can't believe they haven't changed business models and just been like, okay, you know what, this isn't working.
Right.
We've been declining for I don't know how long. Trump makes news every 5 minutes and we still can't get viewers.
But,
I mean,
you know why though? I mean, they all go to the same journalism schools and learn the same things from the same people. They're not bringing in entrepreneurs who are going to bring in fresh new ideas.
that's where the podcasts come in.
I mean, that's where
the alternative media.
I know it was kind of a joke, but they were floating the rumor out there. Oh, Elon Musk should go buy MSNBC and turn it into whatever, and it would probably be a pretty good plan.
It would be a great play. Elon would do a great job of that. I mean,
yeah.
I hope he doesn't, though, because I want him doing what he's doing.
Right.
I don't know. It just it boggles my mind that no one can make a change and that no one can see that what they're doing is not working. But you know what it is. Mark Halperin put it best when he covered Trump in 2016 and was one of the only mainstream journalists. He worked for ABC for a long time, and he goes, I think Donald Trump's going to win this thing. And when they asked him about it later, because he was universally, oh my God, what the hell, Bob? He goes, you know what you got to do? You got to get out of New York and Washington and talk to people.
Yeah.
He goes, that's how I recognized it. He goes, as soon as I got out to Ohio and Iowa and Missouri and Texas and Arizona, I recognized this movement wasn't to be taken lightly. And everybody sitting at their desk and living in their condo and having food delivered to them wasn't talking to the people I was. So it's, and I think that's another reason podcasts have exploded, because it is a lot of citizen journalism. It's regular people. It's regular people talking to regular people.
Yeah.
It was funny too, going back listening to the podcast Trump went on. He went on like 2 a day back he would go on them all the time. And I'm convinced Trump could talk for 100 hours straight if you let him.
Probably.
But it was, I just thought, God, and that's something I think that might have happened in 2020 had you had a regular election and not what happened. I always think that I always think, do you think this? Can I ask this dumb question? I might have asked you this before. Let's just say 2020 was a normal year.
Yeah.
And I think Trump would have been reelected in a normal year.
Yeah.
Biden's would have health. He couldn't have hid in the basement. That would have never happened. COVID gave him the excuse to do it. The early voting and the cheating would have never happened. However, I hate that we went through those 4 years, Jay.
Yes.
However, the fact that we did, and Trump's back now, are we going to be better off in the long run? I mean, are we better off in the long run for that?
Yes. Yes, we are. I look at it this way: we have Mike Pence in the White House right now. Exactly. I mean, I'm serious. or a Democrat,
right? Or Pence could have lost,
right? And instead, I mean, look at who we've got in his cabinet. And I mean, when you talk about Kash Patel, heading the FBI, when you talk about Scott Bassett, and you talk about Tulsi Gabbard.
Howard Lutnick's a good one.
Yeah.
Commerce Secretary.
Yeah, really and Pete Hegseth. And, I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
It's hard to find a bad appointment there. It's really hard to find a bad one.
Yeah.
It's hard. Even though I was skeptical of Rubio a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not anymore.
Nope. He's doing
very well right now.
Yeah.
And I think he's moved toward Trump, too.
Yeah, I think so.
But obviously he knows his role.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Trump clearly had it ironed out before any appointment.
And he's another one, I think, that would be interested in being president in, the not too distant future.
He's very interested in something like that.
And so by helping and playing by the rules, not rules, but,
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Unwritten political rules.
Right. Yeah. By helping Trump instead of fighting against
him,
he's only going to help his chances as far as that goes. Now, going back to that question, I don't think that there would have been any of this that's going on right now had he won in 2020. We wouldn't be seeing the tearing down of all of these departments. We wouldn't be seeing the waste. I don't know that Elon Musk would ever have come on board, and we wouldn't have had the AI capabilities that they're using right now to identify all of the waste.
And would he have the coalition that he built? Would he have the Bobby Kennedys and the Tulsis and the Dr. Phils and the? I mean, it kind of took. I kind of took a holy. Who did we elect to? It's kind of like Jimmy Carter being elected. The country had to snap back to its senses,
right?
And just go, whoa!
Yep.
We made a mistake here. I mean, it kind of took that maybe to happen. I just hate that we had to go through that as a country.
Yeah,
but maybe you're right. Maybe in the long run, it will be better for all of us if it happened. I mean, I hate these wars that have gone on.
Yes.
Because Trump's right. I'm sorry, he's right. This Ukraine-Russia war would have not happened had he been reelected. There's no way 500,000 people would be dead.
Right.
There's just no possibility that would have happened. So it is sad. At the same time, it's kind of like, all right, maybe we've righted it now and it's going to stay right for a while. I don't know. But the realignment has me intrigued because I've never lived through something like this.
Right.
And to see, and I have to say something too. This is gonna piss some people off.
Yeah.
I want the Democratic Party to get their act together because I want the Republicans held accountable.
Yeah.
If they fail, I don't want Democrats to beat them necessarily, but I do want other Republicans to beat Republicans if necessary.
Yeah.
The Republicans should be held, and it keeps Republicans on their toes, and it keeps them moving. And I think the one-party rule's never good, in my opinion.
No, it's not.
It just never is. So I wish they would get their act together. I still hope they lose.
Yes.
But I just routinely, I just think so many people right now are dismissing them as loony and crazy and completely out of touch.
Oh,
yeah.
When you have Chuck Schumer showing up with an avocado and a beer to a press conference.
What the hell was he doing?
I don't know.
He's never drank a beer in his life. But he looks like he should be an alcoholic. But he's not cool enough.
No.
I don't know. It's just it's an exciting time to live in, and just my personal optimism is something I'm just so happy about.
Yeah, well, and we're seeing a huge shift, like we talked about earlier, with younger people. I mean, these are people that are going to be voting for decades and decades and decades. I mean, we were thinking we were losing all these people to the Democrats, and everything was moving to the left. Men got sick and tired of being told that masculinity is toxic, that they had better sit down and shut up, that they don't deserve to get the good jobs. That
here's the other thing too.
Yeah.
In 2016, men voted for Trump and they were kind of quiet about it.
Yeah.
2024, they voted for Trump and they stuck their chest out about it.
Yeah.
That's another difference. You know that closet Trump voter that was there? They weren't in the closet anymore.
Right.
That's the pendulum swinging. You can see it swinging.
And again, you got guys like Charlie Kirk that were out at all of the universities and having these prove me wrong sessions where he would answer questions from people, and you'd have some lefties that were just nuts, but you could see
the ignorance and the people learning
and
getting it.
Yeah, absolutely. They started to actually think for themselves.
Well, and here's the other thing. It's also that, but it's class. Trump, you go back to the 1996 election.
Yeah.
Bob Dole. Now, keep in mind, money was a little different in 1996.
Yeah.
$75,000 and above. Bob Dole won those voters.
Yes.
$75,000 and under, Bill Clinton won those voters.
Right.
Flip that in 2024, $100,000 or less. Trump won that.
Yeah.
$100,000 or more, Harris won that.
Right.
There's a huge shift. And that's
a
huge. And that brings me to one. I'm going to give you like one or two more questions and we'll wrap this up.
All right.
What do you think happens with like unions? What do you think happens with like the Teamsters? What do you think happens with, some of these other blue collar and maybe even not so blue collar? Where do the unions go? Working class people who, have made up the Dems a lot over the, since the days of FDR, really.
Yeah.
Where are they going? Do they all stay on the left?
You've got your bosses that I think that they tend to want to be on the left.
Separate the union bosses from the union members.
The union members, I think, are going to move right. Like we've seen, the early indicators have been like in Pennsylvania and up north here in the 8th District of Minnesota, where you have a Democrat Party that has abandoned dig. They can't drill, and you're going to have like the teachers union where I think they stay pretty close with the Democrat Party, and like SEIU, your government employees and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
but
there's exceptions to that.
Yeah.
Like police and fire unions.
Yeah. Right.
That's
Police and fire are different. They trend more conservative. So I believe that those unions are going to get more conservative. Your pipe fitters, your welders,
your electricians.
Yep. I think that they will, because they'll see opportunity open up as the economy opens up.
Huh.
And you're going to see Democrats continue to try and shut stuff down, continue to try to promote woke policies.
That doesn't appeal to anybody there.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I worked a construction job for a while.
Me too.
And I was there on an excavation crew with guys that run backhoes and bobcats and front end loaders. They couldn't have give two
blankety blanks last night.
They really couldn't care, about somebody's gender or, no.
But do you think some of it has been like voting for Democrats out of habit?
Yeah,
it's not.
I think there's a lot of that. Yeah. I know even like in some of my family up north, my grandparents were FDR supporters. They went through the Depression, right? And so they didn't fully shake that, and my uncle was a pipe fitter, and so he, of course, was a Democrat, and so that had its effect, I think, even down.
But you could be a man and be a Democrat and be
Yeah.
a masculine guy.
You could.
50 years ago. It's hard to be that. 20 years ago,
right.
you could.
Well, when you're talking about how much money should we spend for a social net versus Billy wants to be Bobby and or Betty or whatever, and and you have to accept that. That's a shift.
Yeah.
That's a shift that a lot of people aren't ready for, and we proved that in the last election.
I'm going to make a prediction that the Teamsters endorse J.D. Vance in 2028.
Really?
Yes. And I think they tacitly endorsed Trump this year.
Yeah.
Their members definitely voted.
Yeah.
For him. I think there's still a divide, but not the Teamsters so much.
Yeah.
Sean O'Brien's pretty level-headed, but I still think some of these unions, there's a break between the brass and that are kind of obsessed with a handful of pieces of legislation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Rather than better wages and benefits for their workers, which really should be their focus.
Yes.
And I really think I think that's going to change. I think as those younger people in their 30s and 40s are in those unions, eventually they're going to rise to the top.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see a change there. And I think they're going to go Republican next time.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see that. And hopefully that will continue here.
Auto
in this
workers
state
that
too.
wouldn't see me surprised.
Oh, yeah.
Either. I mean, I can guarantee you their members did not go Harris.
No.
The brass might have. I don't know. But the members, no way. It's the Dems trying to put them out of business.
Yeah.
But there's no way that's going to happen. So
absolutely. When you have the mandates for electric cars and Detroit used to be a bustling city, and because
they've been in a recession for 40 years
yes.
in Michigan. It's been a long time where they have since they've really gotten going. Yeah. All right, Jay. That's a good analysis there.
Yeah.
A lot to think about. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
That we're living in. It's amazing how much better more optimistic I am. And I still can't stop smiling.
Oh, I know.
Since January 20th.
I know. It's fun. Every day is fun. Yeah. Every day is fun. I mean, there are things that are not fun, but they're kind of funny.
Yeah, exactly.
When you watch the Democrats lining up outside these departments. And
please,
yeah.
When you sing, just keep your day job. As bad as you are at that, you're worse at singing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you want to protest? Well, it ain't Star Search, okay? Okay, we're putting on the hits. All right, now I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
All right. Styling, profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, what do you got for us? Sign us off.
We have seen a fundamental shift in this country. There's no doubt about it. Things are different than they were even just 2 years ago. When President Trump served his first term and then COVID hit, we really saw everything shift, and we couldn't understand why it shifted that way, why all of a sudden everything was about transgenderism. Everything was, we got to back Ukraine no matter what happens. They need all the money that we can give them. It wasn't real. It was artificial. It was inflated. People were looking for a way out of what was happening during COVID. And with that, Biden and Tim Walz took the reins, and that gave us something that we never asked for. And that's what they still don't understand, is that we never asked for this stuff. We never wanted this stuff, but they used the position that they had to push it through. And we found out what they were really about, which was a good thing, because now we can move forward and do the things that we ought to do. We can move forward and put policies into place that take us back into a better time where we can reestablish constitutional principles and not have to worry about what else is coming next. We can rejoice in what's coming next. We can find joy in what's coming next because we know that things are getting put back in order. And that's important. And to take it back to the beginning of the show, we need people that are willing to run for everything from town supervisor all the way to senator, federal U.S. senator. And it's time to step up and consider those things, because until we put the right people in those positions, we are not going to see freedom in the things that they control. And I think we all want that. We all want freedom. We all want to be able to earn a living doing what we enjoy doing and deciding whether we want to chase a greater income or a greater adventure, leave a bigger legacy. Those are things that we have to be able to admit. But at the same time, we can't go back, because Democrat policies are going to kill us. Literally, as a nation, it's going to kill the very idea of America. Or we stand up and we run and we fill these spots and we bring the message with us of, hey, this is a new day. And we all want to have a better life. And I think there's a majority of Democrats that want to have a better life as well, and that will continue to work the way that we're working to change our nation. Well, it's up to you. We can't do it all on our own, and you can't do it all on our own, but when we come together, we can do great things. So if you're interested, give us an email. That is commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. commsolutionsmn@gmail.com, and we will make sure to get back to you. If you've got a story about what's happening in your area that people should know about, whatever. But we can help you win. And by doing that, we all win. So it's good. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn to get to work.
To fight.